agency and is a new resident of Archuleta County. So Chris, come on up.
Thanks, Carl, and thank you to the Archuleta Democrats for putting this together and giving me the opportunity to speak. I hope you don't regret the latter. And thanks for not outing me, because I have a confession to make to all of you. I am a Texan. I was a Texan until last year, when my wife and our 3 kids watched in horror as Texas blatantly passed laws that not only put the health and well-being of my wife and children at risk, but began persecuting families like mine that are navigating having a transgender child. It was clear that Texas was a state that we could no longer call a home. Fortunately, we fell in love with a little town in Colorado called Pagosa Springs. And we are incredibly lucky. We are aware that privilege allowed us to up and leave. It's privilege that allows me to be here and speak to y'all right now. But I wanted to talk a little bit about the folks that we left behind in Texas and in 17 other states with bans on the books right now. Bans on essential health services and decisions best left up to pregnant people and their doctors. Many of these laws were trigger laws just waiting for Roe v. Wade to be overturned. Some of them had been on the books. Some of them were made after Roe v. Wade, knowing that they weren't going to have any teeth until the Republicans did what they said they were going to be doing this whole time. Many bans are so broad that even in the cases that we have exceptions to save the life of the mother, doctors must spend hours with hospital lawyers to determine if they're going to be charged with a felony for doing what they have studied and worked for years to do, providing care to those who need it. And it's no coincidence that these attacks on medical care are coming from the same people who told you all to take horse dewormer instead of a vaccine. Now they want to ban the very procedures that someone with a planned pregnancy would need in the event of a miscarriage or discovery of a non-viable fetus. Now, we've passed through the pandemic, arguably, but this continued attitude of pride in ignorance still puts lives at risk. So I mentioned horse dewormer, ivermectin, and I have a bit of a story to tell you about that. At the beginning of the year, my wonderful, kind, loving mother got COVID. Now, my mom's an intelligent person. She was a technologist back when computers ran on punch cards. Even she was hoodwinked into believing the lie about ivermectin and took that instead of going to the doctor. And that's despite the volumes of information that I provided her. I had to figure out how to get a hold of paramedics while I was here in Colorado, in Texas. Now, I don't know if you've ever tried to call 911 in a different state, but it doesn't work. Luckily, my sister was able to get a hold of them, get a hold of the paramedics. They had to kick down her front door. They found her unresponsive. And for 3 days after that, they weren't even sure she was going to live. 5 months later, she's still suffering from lingering effects. Now, I love my mom. She'd do anything for you or give you anything you needed if you were in trouble, regardless of who you were. She's one of the most selfless people I've ever met. And she's no fool. She just believed in something foolish. She got bad advice from people she trusted because the people she trusted were the people feeding her lies they knew damn well were untrue. My mom survived. Many didn't. This is the result of pride in ignorance. The number of bad actors who lie without remorse or consideration of the consequences may be few. Still, many otherwise decent people trust the people who say what they want to hear over those who speak from training, knowledge, and expertise. And we're seeing the same thing when it comes to prenatal medical care. Republicans who have been elected to office have said that in the event of an ectopic pregnancy, the embryo should be replanted in the womb. This is impossible. Ectopic pregnancies occur once in every 50 pregnancies, are the leading cause of maternal mortality in the first trimester. It always always leads to the death of the embryo. In very rare cases. I even hesitate to say that because that's the type of thing they hold on to. Without proper treatment, which is exactly the treatment that Republicans have passed laws to deny, a lot of people don't know that miscarriages, ectopic pregnancies, etc., require some of the same drugs, some of the same procedures that are classified as abortion. Notice I'm not talking about elective abortion here. I am not talking about choice. I'm talking about people who don't have a choice. 50% of ectopic pregnancies will resolve themselves on their own. The other 50 need treatment. Of those, if you don't get treatment, the mother has the risk of hemorrhaging out. If that were to burst in her fallopian tube, do you know how long it takes to bleed out? 3 to 5 minutes, 50% of your blood's gone. 7 to 10, you're dead. Can you get to the hospital? 7 to 10 minutes? I don't think I get to the car. I'm getting ahead of myself. Now, in states where these anti-abortion laws have been passed, doctors are reporting that they have to wait until the mother is in acute distress even to treat them after a miscarriage. The law prevents doctors from providing the medical procedures necessary to save lives when the risks are small and recovery simple. Instead, it forces doctors and their patients to play a deadly game of chicken with medical care. These laws also force more heartbreak and suffering on those already suffering. It takes 18 to 20 weeks to determine if the fetus is even healthy enough to be born. Before then, you can't determine if the lungs and the hearts and other important organs have matured or grown in a viable manner. But these laws force expectant parents, families who are trying for a child, to continue a non-viable pregnancy for months, knowing that their child will never survive, put their bodies through the stress of childbirth, just to watch their child, the one that they wanted, die in their arms. Now, I honestly hope that Republicans don't understand what their laws do. I mean, how horrible is it that the possibility that they know exactly what they are doing and that the cruelty of forcing a family to live through this nightmare is the intended effect. But even still, it's a very small hope, because with all the information provided by medical professionals and those most qualified to speak on medical issues, including saying don't take horse dewormer for a virus, if Republicans don't care because they don't know, it's because they don't care to know. And so perhaps the cruelty is the point. Maybe it's always been the point with these folks. And these nightmare scenarios are happening to families who want children. We're talking about parents who have picked out names, built cribs. Maybe they've asked somebody to be a godparent. Maybe they've already had a baby shower. Republicans have deluded themselves into believing that there are folks who wake up suddenly in the 7th, 8th, and 9th month of pregnancy and said, nah, you know what, I've changed my mind. I think I'm going to have an abortion today. That doesn't happen. They want you to think it does. They can't even for a moment put themselves in a family's shoes and think about that scenario. So imagine getting what may be the worst news of your life at that point. An entire future was taken from you through no fault of your own. And then being told that many out-of-touch, predominantly male politicians decided that your doctor cannot offer you the health care that you need. Shame on them. Nobody should have to justify making the right decisions regarding their own medical care or their family's own medical care. Not the 10-year-old rape victim, not the 30-year-old rape victim, not the family that cannot afford to provide a child with a life free of the uncertainty of poverty, not the person who makes the mature decision that they aren't ready to raise a child. The choice a pregnant person makes about their body is between them, their family, their doctor, and their creator, and I don't see a hell of a lot of room there for big government. Representative McLaughlin's opponent, bed and breakfast owner Shelley Shaw, has stated verbatim, and I copied this, so I want to make sure I got this right. Quote, I do not agree with abortions for any reason, even to save the mother's life. I believe the doctors should work to save both mother and child, and that there shouldn't be a law providing a person to choose one life over another. End quote. That's bullshit. That attitude from someone who wishes to be an elected representative is the epitome of pride and ignorance that is resulting in a government that is not just invasive, not just irresponsible, but deliberately cruel. It is an attitude that places no inherent value on life, not the life of the mother, not the life of the child. It is a deliberate, fundamental misunderstanding of medical science, the realities of pregnancy and motherhood, and the role of government. It tosses aside decades of medical advancement that make it possible to save human lives. It tosses aside human lives. And Colorado has provided my family, me, with refuge. It's a place that aligns with our values and the majority of the country's, as we all well know. And I'm aware that I'm a straight white male. I have the least worries of any category of citizen in this country. And so I tried my best to remember how lucky and privileged I am. And I let empathy be my guide. Yet, despite all my empathy for others, there's no comparison until you realize that they've pointed the cannon at you. Now, I find myself fortunate, but like everybody here, I am no fortunate son. I speak as a former Texan in opposition to Shelley Shaw, another former Texan. Now, I brought my family here to escape the cruelty of Republican policies. She has come here to inflict those cruelties upon a state that stands against them, against that for her, against Proud Boys and Red Hats and 3%ers, fascist forces at the gates to tear down democracy and decency with it. All Shaw offers Colorado is Newsmax talking points. She does not understand the issues we care about in Colorado, the issues that Representative McLaughlin has spent 6 years fighting for in our district. If we do our job, she'll be able to do that same great job for us for the next 2 years. But Shelley wants to turn Colorado into Northwest Texas. And if you've ever been to Northwest Texas, you really don't want that association. Apologies to folks in this room that might be from Northwest. Shelley wants to tell you what you can do and cannot do with the most personal decisions regarding your body. And she's not going to stop there, because these people will act in lockstep with national MAGA policies. I could stand here and read you receipts on her thoughts about the January 6th attempted overthrow of our democracy through an armed insurrection in an attempt to overthrow the results of a free and fair election. I don't have that amount of time. I do, however, invite you to visit shelleyshaw.co. And if you have any more ideas for that website, my email's on there. Now, I never understand why idiots who believe in a second Civil War think that they'd win it. I will tell you this, though. This former Texan will fight her to the finish. You have welcomed my family with open arms. We now consider ourselves proud Coloradans, and we will be forever grateful. And I will always stand with you on this and other values for which Colorado has stood. To move here and decide for y'all what your values are, that your values are wrong, is appalling and arrogant, and that's the path Shelley Shaw has chosen. I cannot emphasize enough. This midterm election is when we have to bury the Republican Party. Because if we will not bury the Republican Party in November, we will be dealing with the fallout for generations. The fact you are all here is a step further than most people take. And I'm asking and pleading for you to take one step further. Take a step out of that comfort zone. Please volunteer. Donate now when the money is going to make the most difference instead of later, if you can. Take this information and use it to energize those who agree with you, but maybe they don't understand the stakes. I'm a former Texan, and I don't want Colorado to become Texas. I hope you can reach out to people and get them to feel the same pride that I feel today in my state of residence, my Colorado. And that felt damn good to say.